Okay, I just wanted to give you a brief clarification on a fairly smallish point of Kentucky law. When we're talking about dividing, and so this is on dividing marital assets, specifically retirement, it's specific to Kentucky in part, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about QDROs. And if you are practicing in another state, you might find something similar, although this is super specific to Kentucky because it has to do with teachers. All right, we're going to go from the standpoint that teachers in Kentucky have a pension. This pension takes the place of Social Security. So a quirk of Kentucky law is that teachers do not pay into, public school teachers do not pay into Social Security. They pay into a pension system, and in return, they get a pension from Kentucky, and they do not collect Social Security. The law in Kentucky protected that, and it protected that because, and it protects it relative to marriage and supporting other, like an ex-spouse. Because if you get divorced, you can still get Social Security in your own name. But not if you're a Kentucky teacher, you just don't get it. And so the Kentucky law protects part of that retirement for teachers. And you may have seen a statute that says if some retirement is accepted, here's what happens, okay? So this is in response to that section of KRS 403. Okay, so because teachers pay into a pension system, Kentucky KRS 403 says that, initially said, before 2015, said all of that pension is not marital property. It's changed a little bit, and so I'm going to talk about that. A case that kind of explains it is called Schoen v. Schoen, S-H-O-W-N. And it's pretty easy to read. You can see what I'm talking about in that case. And the reason that it did that was because these teachers, by statute, could not access Social Security. So in order to sort of acknowledge that and protect their now pension rights, which are taking the place of Social Security, it wasn't divisible marital property. And you know that, but for that law, their retirement, if gained, if earned, if set aside during the marriage, would ordinarily be marital property, right? But that law protected it. In 2015-ish, the law was amended, I think as a result of a Kentucky Supreme Court case. That might be the law that you have seen that talks about if a portion is accepted, okay? So what that means is, and it only really applies to teachers, but you wouldn't know that from reading the statute because it doesn't say so. It says if a portion is accepted, and that may happen in other contexts too. So if it does, like if a military pension for some reason is accepted, not taken as part of a marital estate, then the statute would apply as well. But if you're looking at that statute, know in the back of your head that what they're really talking about is this teacher provision, okay? So that statute says if a portion of retirement is accepted, removed from the marital estate, not considered marital property anymore, then the other spouse's pension will also not be considered marital property. So if you have a teacher who has an accepted pension and she is married to a doctor, that doctor's retirement also falls under the statute because it's not fair to say, well, we're not going to count one spouse's pension as marital, but we are going to count the other one. And so the teacher essentially would get all of her pension and then half of the doctor's pension as well, or the potential is there. So what the amendment then of this statute says is that there's a cap on it, and the cap on it is the amount of the other person's pension. So if I'm a teacher and I have a pension and my spouse has a pension and we get divorced, then the amount of pension that, so let's say my pension is $50,000 and theirs is $30,000. The overage, the difference, is marital property. The rest of it is going to be accepted. And if mine is under statute, then theirs is as well. And this applies when we have pensions on behalf of both people. And so when you've seen that statute before, you may not have realized that this really is specific to Kentucky, and it's specific to this particular statute that allows teachers to be protected because of the Social Security issue. That's what that statute is about. Part 2. So what does a QDRO do? And you've seen a little bit about this, but if you've looked at it at all, if you looked at it in the book or in the video, I can't impress upon you enough how complicated a QDRO is. I'm going to give you an example. So the Qualified Domestic Relations Order is the order. It's just the order. It's not the court saying this is divisible and this isn't, and she gets this and he gets that. That's not what this does. Court does that in a regular old family law order. The QDRO is how that happens over time, sort of looking forward. So let's say there's a pension, and half of it's marital, but half of it's not. So I get married, I have a $50,000 pension when I get married. By the time I get divorced, it's worth $100,000. Only the marital portion is divisible, right? So the $50,000 that I earned pre-marriage is mine. The $50,000 that was earned during the marriage is marital. And if I stay at that job after I get divorced and keep earning money in it, that's separate. You can see very quickly how complicated this gets, because now we're not only talking about who gets what, but the count is going to be added to with contributions from the employer and the employee, and interest and losses. So your retirement package is going to change in value over time, regardless of whether you add anything to it. What percentage of the gain does the spouse get? Well, it's based on whatever percentage of the balance they got in the divorce. The QDRO is what keeps it all straight. These are complex, and you can imagine if you have a long-standing retirement account that is separate at first, then marital, split, then separate at the end, we have to keep the balance as well as gains and losses straight as far as who gets what. And many family lawyers farm these QDROs out because it's a kind of a niche market, how to complete one of these. I had a friend who needs one and came to me, and I went to all the family lawyers I know, and all of them said, you need to go to this guy because he's the guy that does them. And they were all family lawyers, and they didn't do any of that. And so for your purposes, knowing how to fill one out is not something that is going to be part of this class or part of the bar or anything like that. You need to know what it does, that it does not divide the property. A court order in the divorce does that, but the QDRO keeps it straight going forward. And it also differs based on what kind of account you have. So every 401k, all these different retirement accounts have different rules as to what has to be in their QDRO. And so depending on where the pension is from, where the retirement account is from, the Qualified Domestic Relations Order is going to reflect the needs of that particular account. So it's going to take that into consideration as well. So that's a little bit about this Kentucky statute in terms of teachers, exceptions to marital property because of the teacher issue, and the Qualified Domestic Relations Order. Hope that clears up a little bit for you. I will be posting this as well as posting some websites, the statutes that I'm talking about, and that shown versus shown case to hopefully be helpful.